A rare look at the ocean floor beneath Vancouver's Spanish banks. Thanks to unique cycles of the moon, the West Coast has had 2 days of the lowest tides in a decade.
It's like a kid in the candy store. I get to see stuff that I hardly ever see otherwise.
The exposed ocean floor is a boon to those who study marine life.
It's the kind of things that is normally just for the scuba divers. So things that normally wouldn't be out of the water. So there's little hard corals, there's really interesting sponges, a lot of the sea stars and nudibranchs, all the really colorful stuff tends to live lower on the shore.
The low tides also mean a feast for seagulls and other birds.
Saw a few starfish, a seagull eating a starfish. I don't know how that tasted, but
little crabs.
A few little crabs. Yeah, it's cool. It's beautiful out here.
And a treat for the beach combers and the skimboarders.
It makes it a lot easier to skimboard farther because the waves are lower.
But this ocean in temporary retreat also brings hidden secrets closer to view. In 1888, the SS Beaver shipwrecked not far from here off of Prospect Point. Now, rumor has it the crew was drunk, and 4 years later, the ship sunk beneath the waves. But there are people who believe that if you're lucky on a day like today, you might be able to catch a glimpse of the shipwreck beneath the waves. Though we didn't glimpse the wreck, we did track down these pieces of the ship, scavenged by enthusiasts just after it sunk. For those hunting for a piece of Vancouver lore or just some West Coast wildlife, the tides will be low for 2 more days.
It feels so rich and enriched by what we have here. I'm awed.
And it's just really neat to get a new view of the place where I live.
A rare reminder of what, most of the time, lurks just beneath the surface. Michelle Ghoussoub, CBC News, Vancouver. We're walking through the village of Lytton now. We're wearing our N95 masks. They are recommended even outdoors here because of the level of toxins from what is coming up off of everything that burned last summer. And it's really eerie to see just how little has changed in the past 8 months. The townsite is closed to the public, so we met up with resident Denise O'Connor, who acted as our guide.
I could see flames up on the tracks up there. I could see buildings on fire. Black smoke, so I could tell buildings were on fire, but I could also see trees candling. And of course, the smoke was just billowing this way. We just knew right away we had to leave. Like, there wasn't a choice.
One of the first theories about how the fire got started was that it was sparked by a train that came in through town. There were actually multiple investigations into whether that happened, and they determined that they couldn't link railway activity to the fire, but a lot of people in town still believe that that was what caused the fire. The fire actually did start just within 5 feet of the railway track, just down this way. What would you want people who are living in those fire zones to know after what happened here?
Just be ready at any time. Have photos of inside of your homes and a kit packed, ready to go at a moment, because life just changes in a moment. I mean, that was a huge lesson, right? I mean, it could be anything, but you just never know, right?
In May 2022, Vancouver police found 2 bodies in a 1-room apartment on Vancouver's downtown east side. One of those bodies was Noelle, a 14-year-old Indigenous girl who had gone missing from a group home a year before. There were other stories like Ghoussoub's, but her case stood out because she was so young and because of where her body was found. Inside a 1-room apartment where the body of a man had been discovered just months earlier. Even though Ghoussoub's body would have been in that apartment at the time, police somehow missed it. We wondered why it took police months to find Ghoussoub's body, how 2 bodies were overlooked in the initial search, and how she ended up there to begin with. I started looking into the story with my colleagues Jason Proctor and Ethan Sawyer, and our investigation took us back many years to the man who lived and died there, and uncovered a disturbing story. Here's what we found. Putin has now vowed to suppress what he has referred to as an armed mutiny by Prigozhin. As someone who knows Putin closely, how might he deal with this unexpected challenge to his authority?
Well, my first guess would be that he was going to punish and to crush this rebellion as swift and as cruelly as possible. Now we see that apparently he doesn't have enough resources for that.
And this is a situation changing minute to minute, hour by hour. But what aspects or events will you be paying close attention to in the coming days? What could Putin's next move be in this situation?
I would say that we should see what would be the next moves of Mr. Prigozhin. If he really leaves, retires to Belarus, and he surrenders his Wagner group, or he may do something different. We must see how this new agreement will be implemented.
Let's start tonight in Abbotsford, where our Michelle Ghoussoub is stationed along the newly reopened Highway 1 and Whatcom Road. I know you'll get to that in a minute, Michelle, but first, what is the province asking people to do?
Anita, across BC, there are warnings tonight that the weather could turn dangerous. People are being told to stay vigilant, stay home, don't travel unless you absolutely have to. And if you do have to head out on the road, make sure you have emergency supplies with you. That includes food and water. Now, if you are in a flood zone, be ready to evacuate at a moment's notice to get to safety. As you mentioned there is some good news tonight. Highway 1, which is just beside me, has reopened to the general public, but people are being warned to not expect travel to be as usual. It will be slow going, and you are still asked to only travel Highway 1 if you absolutely have to. And Leanne, it is important not to forget that the purpose of these Pride Nights is really to show people in hockey, whether they're fans, whether they're staff, players, that the sport will be welcoming to members of the LGBTQ community, a sport that hasn't always been very welcoming to them. Important to note again that up to this date, there has not been an openly gay or bi player in the league. Leanne?
Something definitely to take a note of. Thank you so much for that. Michelle Ghoussoub reporting for us tonight.